Hi, I want to talk about value attachment and the value of secure attachment specifically within the context of relationships and how that actually allows you to explore further and more deeply. I also want to talk about the way attachment plays out relationally, even though I've always talked about attachment as a dyadic experience. I largely focus on the individual. What I want to flesh out more is how it plays out in the family system and also in the intimate relationship context. So let's jump right into it. And the first thing you have to understand is that emotional states, the attachment system going off, is connected to your emotional regulation, your ability to turn on, be activated, and to settle. In secure functioning relationship, what happens is not only is the attachment system able to settle, when the attachment system is settled, you're generating positive states, positive emotional experiences for yourself and for others. You feel good about who you are, and you feel good about other people. I don't mean in a Pollyannish way where every single person you're just like amazing. Another person, that's more of a compassion, enlightened view, meditative state where you really feel the suffering. You meet it with compassion. You feel joy. I just mean a more kind of ordinary, secure experience, which is that you're able to generate positivity in relationships. And that positivity, the joy, the delight that secure people can feel in relationships, when that's coming towards you in relationship, it feels really good. It feels good to take that in. It's usually reciprocated. For a secure person, if it is not reciprocated, somebody doesn't bring that back, doesn't reflect it back, amplify the positive state, right away they know something is not right, and they usually move on quite rapidly because they're used to that experience of kindness, delight, acceptance, positivity, mutuality. And that brings us to insecure attachment, where what ends up happening with any kind of anxious avoidance or ambivalence, there's a lot more negative emotional states: anxiety, anger, rage, jealousy, or negative thinking in relationships. So as you engage with somebody else, you may be feeling judged, you may be judging them, you may be thinking you're better than others or other people are better than you. So there's a lot of underlying conflict. I think most people know at a implicit level that if you want to get what you want in relationships, if you want to get by in life, you have to play nice, you have to collaborate to some degree. And if you're coming with insecure attachment, the feeling underneath that may be quite anxious, quite distressed, and you have to hide that because, if it's a professional setting, for example, you can't say, to your boss that necessarily they're making you really stressed out. You just kind of put up with it. Same thing with casual relationship. It's only your close people that you really are able to do that, and that is what I want to talk about, is the close relationships. And secure people are really good at bringing in other people that are up for doing this, that can generate positivity and feel really good together. Do you know anybody who makes you feel especially good? Is there somebody else who you can do that for? That's the kind of relationship I'm talking about, where you you don't have to do anything, you're just present with each other and you feel better. I think about, for example, with my best friend or my closest friends, specifically with my best friend, when I think of seeing them, right, I can't help but feel good because the connection, no matter what happens, we've been through so much, I'll know we'll be able to manage. And when we do meet in person, the moment we see each other, these goofy smiles pop up on our faces, automatic, we can't help it. We know no matter what's going on in our lives, in a short amount of time, we'll be feeling really good. That's the kind of experience we're talking about. The positive emotion, it lubricates the social experience. So it's a virtuous loop, positive reinforcements of these strategies where the relationship supports you, you feel really good in it, and it just makes sense. So secure people travel in this bubble you can think of, right? Their caregivers are also secure, they're providing good enough care. They're able to pick out people when they leave the family system that also are meeting that bar where they're kind, they're collaborative, mutual, they make them feel good, they can generate joy, delight, positivity for them. So that's all they know, and they're largely insulated and protected by this. Whereas with children that come from insecure households, their ability to function socially, their social competence is lower, especially with disorganization. It's quite poor, and they have difficulty forming relationships. You can think of the preschool, first time you were at the playground, the kindergarten experience, first grade, whatever it may be, that your first memory. Did you feel like you were going to be fully met and you were excited to meet other people and you were going to be accepted? Or was it a anxiety provoking experience where you really nervous about what was going to happen and it didn't go so well? And did that color further perceptions of interactions and actually led to this bitter disappointment and what relationships can offer? That's what I want to talk about today is the value of relationships, the value of attachment and secure attachment specifically. We don't want to bring in close people that aren't able to make us feel good and that we can't make feel good either. It's really this experience of everybody feeling settled, not in a idyllic way. So even secure people have difficulties and conflicts and they're just able to resolve it. Let's talk about the family system. In a secure household, right, you can think of, if the child is secure, the mother is typically secure, the parent, the father, the whole family is typically secure. That's I've covered this earlier where, if you do the strange situation or the adult attachment interview, they largely correlate. So secure parents have secure children, and so on. Insecure with insecure, disorganized with disorganized. In a secure functioning family, what happens is you have a cohesive unit. It's like the family itself, they're all unified, working together. Everybody knows where they stand within the relationship, within the family, with each other, what state people are in. And it's settling. It's kind of boring. It's ordinary. You know what's going on. The story of the family is coherent and integrated. The child knows where they fit in that story. They know the stories of their parents. There's not a lot of secrets or hidden agendas and so on. So everybody's working together. The children are being taken care of. I think the big distinction with secure households is that children don't have to take care of the parents. The parents are self-sufficient. It's actually a major intrusion that happens in preoccupied care where role reversal occurs and the children have to take care of the parents or the parents are incompetent so the child has to fend for themselves more than is reasonable. It's really a damaging experience. With a secure household, the other thing that happens is that when there's conflict, there's a repair. So you have the rupture and the repair. Something may happen outside the family system or even within the family system. Everybody has their own agenda. They're trying to have their needs met in different ways. Say something happens, it rubs you the wrong way. In a secure household, what that means is that every time that happened in the past and each time it happens now, there will be a course correction. There will be an immediate and swift action to repair and bring you back into equilibrium, bring back the whole family system to equilibrium. And the repair is better than to the point where it's better than before the rupture took place. That is a huge confidence booster because no matter what, my parents will do what it takes to bring me back into equilibrium. And then you develop this inner strength, inner confidence, resilience, which I'll talk about later. Essentially knowing that you can, I got through this difficulty, they were there for me in the right ways, it was good enough. I can go through this new thing, try this new thing out that it may be risky or I don't know if I can get through it, but you have this confidence in your family unit. They back you up no matter what in the right ways. And what happens if you didn't experience that? What happens if you didn't have a lot of trust in your family system, your parents? And do you remember when you were young, the first time you were devastated by something overwhelming happened? I think about in childhood, things that were overwhelming back then can seem completely trivial or just not even register beyond your radar as an adult, but a pimple in your face, or I mean, a first breakup could be quite devastating experience. So something like that. Was your expectations that your parents were going to show up right away if you wanted them, and they were going to actually listen to you, take care of you, and help you feel better, get through that experience? Or did they get upset at you? Did they make you feel worse? Did you decide that actually the best course of action here would be to completely hide this experience? Because if you were to let them in, it would be worse. So, insecure household children oftentimes have to withdraw and they live through these painful experiences, especially the ruptures that happen within families, without ever experiencing repair. So, this rupture repair cycle I'm describing, that's not even a concept. They only know about the ruptures, and it's a painful, prolonged, isolating experience where you're trying to auto regulate, get through it on your own. And then there's no acknowledgement, hey, that really hurt me. And there's no way to actually re regulate where two people or the family system co regulates coming back into balance. That's more of an insecure pattern. Let's go more detail about the different ways a family system can function. And one general way is that you can have a hyperactivating family where everybody is, it's almost like too sensitive. There's too much emotional contact, uh, emotional content. Every little thing feels disastrous. There's catastrophizing going on. People are clingy. They don't want to leave. Everybody tries to stay close. There's proximity seeking. And in this family, what I'm describing is more of a preoccupied, anxious, ambivalent, preoccupied flavor. It's really hard to settle. It's a family where there's a lot of emotions. You walk in and there's just a lot of feeling states, anger, confusion, fear, all of it. And then contrast that to a deactivating household where a family uses mostly dismissive or avoidance strategies. Say you walk in and it's too quiet, it's awkward, it's like you can feel the silence in the room, and people actually are in different parts of the house. If it's a large house, everybody has their door locked. There's not a lot of connection, and there people are auto-regulating. They need that space to cool off, to try to deactivate. There's not a lot of emotional language. It's mostly cognitive based, logical. The roles, so it's not so much that people there exist as individuals, full and whole with their positive, negative feelings, all kinds of different expressions. It's really a role based household, oftentimes, in this kind of family, where this is what a mother does, this is what a daughter does, this is what a father does, and so on, the grandma. And everybody plays their role. And for the child, the role is assigned to them. They don't write their own script. They can't be their whole self. And you have to act within these implicit rules. And if you violate it, you're harshly punished, rejected, um, and it feels terrible. So, of course, you abide by these laws, and you begin to learn them, internalize them. And as an adult, as you become a dismissive adult from this kind of upbringing, you continue to carry these as if they're still true. Of course, you're in the greater world now, and what happens there is, the world's your oyster. That's the experience secure people have. Except if you're coming with that attachment conditioning, you think that you still need to maintain these appearances and follow these implicit rules. You can think of it as, Have you ever had a friend come over, or you come over to somebody's house, and when you walk in, you're having dinner with the family and your friend, and then you bring something up, and your friend is kicking you under the table saying, no, we don't talk about that, right? Just communicating to you through body language. So you have to zip your mouth, and then later they tell you, you know, if you were going to say that or explore this during dinner, my mom would get so upset, or because, there's secrets or there's things that are just not talked about. And it puts a lot of strain, right? It's anxiety producing. So both the hyperactivating and the hypo-activating family, the preoccupied or dismissive family, you hold a lot more emotional content that's unfinished. You never really feel settled in the home. If you ever had the experience where you just feel like no matter what the conditions are, something is just not quite right. You can't relax. You can go on vacation, things are seemingly good, and it just feels like there's a free floating anxiety. That's the experience of an insecure household. Home is not your safe haven, it's not a secure base. It's this, something is off about it. And then with an avoidant household, what happens is there's very little emotional content. Oftentimes, emotional language or emotional expression of affect are prohibited. And people are cut off from each other. They need space and distance to cool down. And if you contrast that to a preoccupied home, there, actually, let me talk about a household that uses a mix of these strategies, because I think that's the most common presentation of an insecure household. Because for couples, it's very rare to have a couple that's what I mean as an intimate relationship. If there's two parents and they bring a child into the world, where it's an avoidant coupling, or preoccupied coupling. The most common insecure coupling is actually preoccupied and dismissive, and then disorganized with disorganized. So let me tell you in more detail about what the hyperactivating, hypo-activating household looks like, where both strategies are used. And we're not at disorganized yet. This is still within the context of organized and secure family system. There, what you have, instead of just one go-to strategies, you have this cycling between hyperactivation and deactivation. And at any one point, it could be one flavor, and then the next day could be another. And as a child, you're on your toes, tracking what state different people are in, and what the flavor of the day is. And you may feel triangulated, where when you want proximity and closeness, you're more in a preoccupied state. You're trying to settle, you cling to somebody, and then another person is excluded. When you want space, you can separate out. Now you're in alliance with the person that is up for distance. You can't ever fully get your needs met, so you don't fully settle, unlike a secure household. And this is one of the funny things, is I describe all of this with, funny enough, it's the secure people that sometimes when they just hear about this content, think they may be disorganized. And I just want to be clear, disorganization is a massive drop off. It's really a frightening environment to grow up in. There's terror. That's the level of anxiety. Whereas security, it's just the mundane, ordinary levels of anxiety would be a more fitting word, and that's very low level. Secure households, there they can use distancing at a low level, and they can use it flexibly, or they can use closeness, not at the level of clinginess or this intense proximity seeking, also flexibly. So they shift between these strategies, and it's at a low level. Whereas if you're in an avoidant household, they only really use avoidant strategies. People just distance themselves. That's all they do. Or in a hyperactivated household, the go-to strategy is just dumping feelings, and it's all out there, and you're just used to it. You're used to the, say there's yelling or there's a lot of emotional context. You're just in that environment. And what that tends to do to the child is, there you begin to become hyper vigilant, hyper aware of their external surroundings, especially the states of other people. And their orientation is mostly towards the outside. So imagine putting most of your energy to the outside. If that resonates and that's the only way you know how to put your attention, if somebody is upset at you, you feel upset. If they're happy with you, you feel happy. Your state is largely predicated on the other person's states, whoever matters to you. It could be your boss, it could be your partner, it could be your parent, a friend. And it's their experience that really has primacy. Secure people don't have this kind of viewpoint. They're grounded in their own experience. The inner experience is always primary. And from the inside experience, they can look out at the world and they empathize. They can feel other people's feelings and really take in the content and filter it through the sense of self. With this outside in orientation, it's extremely difficult. And what you end up having is essentially you're trying to regulate other people's experience because their experience is what's consciously for you primary. I'm hoping that all makes sense in the sense that if you have an outside in orientation versus an inside out orientation, how different those are. In an insecure household, because these strategies are being used rigidly, the child often feels like the care is just not good enough. They can't settle. And the reason they can't settle is not because the parents just aren't up for it. Sometimes that is the case in extreme or disorganized households. What happens instead is that if you only have one strategy that your parents can provide, sometimes you want something else, right? If your parents are really good giving you space and you want closeness and they can't do closeness, you're going to feel abandoned. You're not going to feel enough warmth and empathy when you need it. And in the same way, a preoccupied household, there may be clinginess and helplessness, yet sometimes you want space and they don't allow space. They also don't let you go out too far from the house. They may be overprotective, intrusive. They want to know all the details of your personal life, your intimate life, and it's too much and it's intrusive. And the lack of space, the lack of flexible moving in all those different household environments is what really limits your ability to develop a strong, healthy sense of self and the ability to explore fully. It's the rigid use of these strategies. And when we get to major life events, say your mom loses her job or there's a passing away, in an avoidant household, the way this may look is that nobody talks about it. You know something major happened that and then at the dinner table nobody says a word. And you have to make sense of it somehow. And you just learn that, well, we don't talk about these things. As an adult, you take that into your adult life and you don't talk about major things. Or, for example, in a preoccupied household, say there's marital difficulties, it's not uncommon for one of the parents to recruit the child and bring them in and overshare. I'm having these kind of difficulties with your mother. Your mother is difficult in these ways and it's stressing me out, and you're such a grown up daughter, you're so mature, even though the child may be quite young and the child is feeling like confused by that. Well, why are you sharing this? It sounds like it's something good that I'm able to listen to this. Of course, this is a kind of intrusive or role reversing behavior, and it's really damaging because it puts the child in the role of the parent, and the child is now trying to regulate and take care of the parent. The parent collapses into a helpless role. This is a major boundary violation, and what's supposed to happen is that the parent always takes care of the child. The child never takes care of the parent. And that's the boundary that secure households, they don't ever cross. If it ever happens for whatever reason, there's a huge emergency, there's a course correction, right? There's a repair for that, and it's excused. In a preoccupied household, that may be a daily occurrence where, your mom, your dad, your caregiver vents to you. You're their primary source of emotional regulation. When they hug and hold you close, they're not doing it because you want to be hugged and held close. It feels intrusive. It's contaminating. It makes you feel dirty or kind of not right. I don't want to be held right now. The parent may be doing it because they want the closeness. They want you to regulate them. So it's in their favor, not in your favor. And then in this kind of household, and a preoccupied child, as they grow up to be an adult, they have a hard time maintaining boundaries, maintaining proper connection. They may role reverse or be intrusive with other people, where, for example, put somebody, dump their emotional state onto them and see how they regulate instead of saying, this is how I feel, and really contain it. They just spill over, and then the other person is burdened with trying to regulate their experience. And that's very difficult to deal with if you're on the receiving end. Most people feel violated by that. If you're coming from security, you have zero tolerance for that. It's totally unacceptable. So if somebody does that even once, you basically move on. And the preoccupied person may be left confused, wondering, well, I don't know why, but people just keep leaving all of a sudden. I don't get it. Because they can't track what it is they're doing that's contributing to that repeated abandonment. So I talked about the family, the household. I want to also talk about intimate relationship, partner relationship, and how attachment strategies play out within that context. The most common coupling is secure with secure. So there, the difference is with child-parent, the parent takes care of the child. The care is one way. With secure intimacy, with partnership, the experience is mutual. What I mean by that is that one person takes care of the other, and then the other person takes care of them. And it's in a way that's satisfactory to both. You're being taken care of in a way that feels right to you, and you're taking care of them in a way that feels right to the other person. And it's good enough. I'm not saying 50-50 or it's perfectly balanced in any way. Some people just have less needs, and if that's acceptable to the other person and they feel like, yeah, it's a good deal, I'm getting what I need, I like giving that person what they need, it works. You don't have to worry about it. That would be a secure partnership. And you can just travel in that kind of stable way. It's boring, it's settled, it's ordinary. I think with popular media, what you might think is that all relationships are insecure. If you're coming from insecurity, it's also very hard to get into a secure group and have secure partnerships, or know what it means to have secure relationship with your parents. So it may feel like everybody else is insecure, and it's not that secure people aren't there. It's just that they need that kind of stability and reliability, mutuality, in order to bring you in close. So even one major transgression, which to you may not even notice if you're coming from insecurity, may end the relationship or may make them just move on and say, I have lots of close friends. Why would I have this compromised feeling or this kind of relationship? In a romantic relationship, for anxiously preoccupied adults, what happens is they are feeling intense emotions and intense emotional dysregulation chronically. And there's a lot of negative feelings that pop up through the relationship all the time. So we're talking about jealousy, anger. They feel abandoned, or they're fearing abandonment. They feel rejected. It's to the point where the preoccupied person experiences, say you have a wonderful day with your partner. It's going great. Everything is wonderful. You had a picnic, whatever it may be. For the preoccupied person, as the day is coming to a close, at the end of it, as you maybe, you need to go to work, you need to separate, which is totally natural in a relationship for people to come together and for people to come apart, right? Separation is natural. For the preoccupied person, at that moment, they may become completely enraged, completely dysregulated. Their fear of abandonment spikes, and they get angry and begin blaming the other person for making them feel that way, and that they don't care one bit. And it's so much emotion coming at you, and it makes you wonder, well, didn't we just have a wonderful, happy day? Well, how did we get here now? And it has nothing to do with what happened. With a preoccupied attachment in an intimate relationship, this fear of abandonment pops up all the time. Any interaction, say you're having an amazing interaction that lasts for minutes, hours, or days, whatever it may be, each time it's coming to a close, everything has a beginning, middle, and end. The end is unbearable. The end implies abandonment. That experience can't be tolerated by a preoccupied person. They get extremely emotional, often enraged, and then uh, it's a uh, an ineffective attempt to try to recruit the other person to keep them close, and occasionally the other person will try to settle you if you're in that preoccupied state. But it doesn't feel good. It usually severely damages the relationship because, first of all, it's surprising, it's undeserved, and in this way, the anxious preoccupied relationships tend to be highly unstable. There's a lot of intense emotions. The preoccupied person often oscillates between these thoughts of, oh, this is a great relationship. I want to stay in this relationship, to this relationship is never going to work out. This is not the right person. I need to end the relationship. So there's this constant feeling of worry about abandonment, worry about closeness. And even with somebody who's been in a relationship for years, that thought, that feeling may be coming up on a daily basis. It just never goes away. The attachment system for a preoccupied person never settles. In extreme cases, that feeling is so intense, it can feel like the preoccupied person is trying to merge with their partner. They just want to become one, settle into them so they don't have to experience their own chronic dysregulation. If you're a secure person and you're dating somebody who is preoccupied, it's going to feel quite violating. You're going to say, no, this is me. You can't do that, right? This is you. You need to be your own person. Preoccupied person will push back on that and try to continue to merge. And, at the less extreme end, it's just seeking proximity. At the very extreme end, it's really the feeling of wanting to just be the other person, merge into them so you don't have to worry about your sense of self. And then with the avoidant relationship, what happens there is, uh, funny enough, the preoccupied people match well with avoidant people. And avoidant people want distance, they want space. So it's almost opposites balancing each other in a way. So the preoccupied person may be chasing the avoidant person. They may be rejecting and cool and unemotional, very logical. And at a certain point, the preoccupied person will get frustrated and begin to withdraw too. Then the avoidant person begins to be charming again, and they're good at idealizing. So there may be this really charming, it feels good, this idealization where they tell you how amazing you are, tell you exactly what you want to hear. The moment they see that you're hooked and you're not going to leave anymore, then they go back to this cool withdrawal. They may even devalue you or let you know different ways that you don't actually mean much to them. So there may be this devaluing experience. And the shocking thing of being in an intimate relationship with somebody who is avoidant is how suddenly the relationship can end, where they can just end it. And because typically it's a preoccupied person on the other end, it comes to them completely out of the blue as a shock. They have no idea. I thought things were going well. And, you may get text from an avoidant person where they don't actually meet with you or tell you in person that it's over. I don't ever want to see you again. You never meant anything to me. And, next thing you know, they already have a partner. They already moved on. I'm talking about within, a short amount of time, like days or weeks. It's really stunning and difficult to integrate that experience. For the avoidant person, that harsh rejection can come as somebody else is getting close. And preoccupied people want closeness. So, say, you're planning to move in together, you're planning to get even closer, commit more in the relationship. And that at that point, out of the blue, avoidant person may make up their mind and say, no more. You've intruded on my privacy, on my experience, and I need to end it, to cut this off. This feeling is overwhelming. Remember, avoidant people don't do well with feelings. So if there's something that really intensifies that, things come to a head. It might seem like a positive that you're getting together, that you're closer. For an avoidant person, that can be an unbearable, terrifying experience. And then with disorganization, disorganized people tend to partner with only other disorganized people because for somebody coming from disorganization, their primary emotional regulation strategy is autoregulation, and it's usually hiding, withdrawal, really moving away from relationships. And secure or even insecure organized people, none of them are willing to do that, hardly at all. And a disorganized relationship can look like almost there isn't a strong sense of that these two people are really together. It's almost like two completely separate people that said, okay, we're partnered now. There might not be hardly any intimacy or hardly any connection. They may not even spend much time physically together because hiding is the main way they regulate. Oftentimes what happens is if you're close to another person and you're disorganized, that experience is terrifying. It actually increases the terror, makes it more overwhelming. What happens in the household with a disorganized household is the place itself, with insecure attachment, it's a sense of anxiety, unsettledness. With a disorganized household, it's really a feeling of terror. It's overwhelming. It's really high level. So once you cross the line into disorganization, it's so much more extreme. Frightened for my life. You're really in this inescapable position, and sometimes the caretakers are themselves in the very similar state where they're completely overwhelmed and dysregulated, or they may be, in the worst cases, the source of fear because they're frightening or they're dangerous. There's this sense of unpredictability. You don't know what's going to happen. There may be abuse in the home. So disorganization is really a whole another level of severity when we're talking about attachment conditioning within the family and intimate relationships. And all relationships carry with them the risk of rejection and loss. And secure people are willing to take those chances and try people out and see how things go. And they tend to, right out of the gate, the people they pick tend to be good people, good enough people. So they experience less rejection and loss, and things tend to work out because their ability to regulate and course correct to repair is good. They know how to do it. When you're coming from insecure attachment, you tend to pick people that are similar, that are a good match to what you experienced in your early life. So that's other people that are insecure, and essentially they fill the role of what it's familiar. So what may feel kind of comfortable, and it's like, oh yeah, this feels like when I was growing up. Of course, it's very rare that somebody actually describes it that way. It's really at the unconscious level. So there you plug in somebody who's insecure in a similar way, in a way that's familiar, and you can do that. You can manage that kind of relationship. You know how things work. And it's rare for insecurely attached person to pick somebody who's secure or vice versa. For example, with avoidant people tend to pick on people based on social status. They want somebody who is of high social value, a CEO, a president, a boss of some kind, somebody who has a lot of money. These kind of things, that's one of the criteria they pick based on. One other way avoidant people, dismissive people, tend to pick intimate partners is they pick somebody who's helpless, who absolutely needs them, and where they risk nothing. There's no way the other person can ever reject them or make them feel anything. So there's this sense of domination even. I see these themes sometimes. So their relationship from the get-go tends to be uneven. And there's a flavor of transaction where the avoidant person is trying to get something. It's not in a mutual way where secure people tend to share things, and it's in the open, they know what they're signing up for. An avoidant person may have the primary behavior is really uh, a way to get something they do value, but that's hidden. That's not obvious. They don't just ask for the thing they want. They transact it in some covert way. And of course, I'm describing that it may sound malicious. If you were to ask a dismissive person and actually they were to report their conscious experience, it's not like that. They just do it because that's what happened to them. You know, there's a lot of performance, pressure to achieve, performance-based care where if you behave like a good girl, then mommy loves you more. You get treats and you get attention. If you don't behave in ways that are meeting the expectations of your parents, then you're punished or you're ignored or rejected. That's how that experience translates into adulthood. If it's not obvious yet, the kind of people I've described, this helplessness, this people that seek proximity, that avoidant people are looking for, that's the preoccupied person. So that's what makes it a good match. And these relationships, although they tend to have a lot of intense emotions and tend to have a lot of drama, they can be stable. Sometimes people go on with their whole lives in these insecure dynamics. Um, the main difficulty there is that the relationship itself, even though you do get some things, you may get intimacy, you may have some needs met, you may have other needs not met at all, just coming together, trying to keep the relationship together can be your primary pursuit in your life. So you may, have work or other things, other responsibilities. You spend so much time and energy burning up in the relationship itself, trying to maintain it, keep the two parties together, that by the time that you're ready to do something else, and we're talking about exploration here, there's not a lot left. The whole point of intimacy, of closeness, of being close in this way is to be elevated by the relationship, to have such a stable relationship that you can take big risks, that you can go out in the world and explore really far and pursue meaning, find things that are interesting to you. And secure people know that. That's why they engage in these relationships. This reminds me of something Dan Brown used to say. He's the creator of the three pillars approach. Is he would say the absence of a negative is not the presence of a positive. And what happens through the attachment repair process is, in the very beginning, what you're working through is just the afflictive patterns, the most debilitating parts of the insecure attachment. Once you work through the negative conditioning, you're at this kind of midpoint where it's neutral. Things are significantly better. You feel like all of a sudden you're settled. You can feel better. What tends to happen is sometimes people feel stuck there, or they just say, okay, I'm done. What they don't realize is that you have to actively work on developing the positive, of learning how to explore, how to use that settledness, right? That stability, the lack of negativity, um, to, the newfound energy, the skills, to actually put those skills to have an impact on the world, to explore, to find meaning, all of that. That's really the point of all this work, is not to just feel settled, to turn the attachment system off. That's part of the human experience. The bigger part of it is really just leaving our mark on the world. I think we're all wired to do it, to discover ourselves, the world. If I haven't convinced you enough of the value of attachment, the value of secure functioning relationship, there's really good research now that shows how this kind of emotional dysregulation, chronic dysregulation, not only in early life, also in adult life, leads to really, it damages the body, it damages the mind, the brain, because we're biologically wired, right? Emotions have a direct impact on our experience. For example, I think with rage really ages people, holding a lot of anger. And this isn't just hearsay, I'm not making this up. You can just literally Google the connection between emotions and physical health. That's well established, so a lot of people will experience somatic symptoms or have chronic conditions. A lot of people I work with have rare, debilitating conditions that are suspected to be caused by unresolved emotional states. So the connection is there, chronic migraines, headaches, stomach aches, back pain. It's kind of like I don't know why, but I always feel pain. One thing with emotional dysregulation is the most intense emotional experience you can have is just pain, pure physical pain. If you're in a chronic dysregulated state, it can get to the point, right, if it's prolonged enough, it begins to get transferred. It converts into physical pain and may present as symptoms in the body. And then you have to work backwards, emotionally settling and in a sort of, I feel like I'm kind of going into this woo-woo land now. And I do hope that over time, at some point, all of this is really thoroughly backed up by research, and there's uh, clear connections made between, say, different emotions, different medical, physical experiences you can have. But basically, the body can store somaticized emotions. So if you have overwhelm long enough, that's unregulated, the body can store it in a way, and it will have a location. And a lot of people I see describe certain tensions or physical symptoms, and it's really an emotional experience that's ongoing in the body, waiting to be resolved. So there's this way that the body can pack away essentially overwhelm. With secure functioning relationship, what you tend to be able to achieve is, because you're elevated by the relationship, you're so settled, you can enter these flow states and peak performance states. You're able to function at a much higher level. Not only you're able to take risks because you have so much more capacity and resources and energy, when the opportunities do come your way, you can take them. You say, yeah, I'm up for it. Of course, I feel energetic enough. I can do this. With insecure attachment, and especially disorganization, what you tend to see is some of your peers, you may see that they're like light years ahead of where you are. They're able to do all the things they want to do. They're further ahead, and they just go for it. And it's confusing. It's like, I have a hard time getting out of bed. What are they doing? What are they eating? How are they able to do that? And it's that chronic dysregulation that's draining, sapping your energy, your life force. And you can't put it towards meaning and building up your life. So there's this disintegrating that can happen, and especially with disorganization, you can fall into despair, hopelessness, and it's really a challenging experience to overcome. Let's talk about resilience. I want to talk about how resilience is not a personal construct. It's not something a person is born with. It's really just the accumulation of all the social and internal resources you have. So for a secure person, they have a lot of social capital. They have a lot of good emotional regulation skills, capacities to function in different ways. And the way that shows up is resilience. Bad things happen to secure people all the time. They're able to integrate it and move on and continue going. And, if they need to, they go to their family, they go to their friends, their partner, and they help them re-regulate and continue to keep going. There's not a lot of time they spend where they're chronically dysregulated. And they tend to be more resilient. They're able to get through things, even difficult experiences. With insecure attachment, what happens there is that there's insufficient support, and challenges, sometimes not even major challenges, can be overwhelming, right? Imagine if you're partnered, you're able to maintain a partnership, especially a secure partnership. It's like you have a personal attendant. Somebody is there monitoring you day in, day out. One of the longest ongoing studies in the world, the Minnesota study, Alan Shroof's and his group, what they find is that the best predictor of health and happiness and life satisfaction is long-term stable social relationships. The more such a relationship you have, the better the outcomes tend to be for the person. And it may seem obvious on the surface, right? If you're isolated, even a minor issue can become large, can be difficult to overcome. So with disorganized people I see, they tend to tolerate a lot more pain, a lot more dysregulation. Their pain tolerance tends to be sky high, way too high, not in a good way, in the sense that I think for most people, their alarm bells would be going off. This is an emergency. I need to take emergency action. But disorganized people have chronically experienced this level of pain, and they just learn how to live with it. This is my encouragement to begin to try that, to course correct if you're in this hopeless, deactivated state, to actually begin to look for other ways to get out of it. That path of isolation really only leads to greater despair. It's a dead end. There's no happy ending there. You want to learn to activate and try something new and get out of that rut. The way it can look is secrecy or hiding yourself, especially with this organization. There, people don't reveal themselves fully, and you may not feel seen and known by others. You don't feel valued. And there's a bitter disappointment that accumulates if you're insecurely attached and things just don't work out over and over, relationships. And there's a lot of feelings of rejection. And it's not uncommon, even for just not necessarily disorganized people, somebody who's with preoccupied attachment, to also begin to withdraw, because the feeling of rejection, of trying to make it work and not having it work out, is more painful than if you just never went for it in the first place. So this is a really dangerous and dark place to go. You have to find a way to get out of that negative space and actually move towards positivity, to begin to make new connections and have this vitality, a vital engagement in life, being able to take risks, to go for what matters to you. With insecure attachment and disorganization, there's this slow resignation of hopes and dreams where they just begin to fade out and you stop trying. And it's a way to avoid negative feelings. You just stop trying, and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't actually, there's no piggy bank where you can save the lack of pain or the lack of rejection. There's no currency where you save it up, accumulate it, and then at some point later in your life you can cash it out and you get something really good. All you get is the moments just keep passing by. Could be days, months, years, and then they're gone. There's no getting back to them. There's a lot of regrets about things that could have been done that never were done. You want to find a way to get back on track and get this sense of vitality and engagement, to form relationships in a new way. And this is the value of attachment, the value of repairing your attachment if you're coming from insecurity and disorganization, to actually know how to function at a secure level, how to get satisfaction from these relationships, and also to explore in a new way, to feel really good with other people and discover the world and pursue your interests, to actually be able to start that process of having a unified sense of self. I think I'll end there on this more hopeful message. And if you want to learn more about attachment repair work and the services I offer, you can go to the website, mindfulattachmentcoaching.com. All the information is up there, upcoming classes, services offered.